What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick Ash Podcast. I have a very, very special episode here for you today. I linked up and partnered up with my dude, none other than Elvis Escobar from the Enter the Lab podcast. You can find Enter the Lab on any streaming device. Like I said, in part one of the stacked show that we'll be giving you guys this weekend. I prefer to watch them on YouTube. I love the visual aspect. There's something about it that kind of ties you in a little bit more and kind of makes you feel like you're right there with them. But definitely, if you can, check them out on YouTube, check them out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. But I'm very thankful that Elvis was able to swing by the Kick Ash podcast, sit down with me for a couple hours. We broke down the Summerslam card itself and did a whole prediction for the Summerslam card that will be airing tonight from Nashville, Tennessee. So you guys will get that part. Well, technically it was part 2 of our recording, but you'll get that, guys, today as part 1. I wanted to release that as soon as possible for you guys, so you will get that in preparation for tonight's big show. Obviously, to prepare for the pay-per-view, you will be getting part 2 maybe some point today, maybe sometime tomorrow morning, and then we'll obviously have a review show either with Elvis again if the schedules and the stars align, but if not, you'll definitely get one from myself within the next day or so. Like I said, we will not waste too much time here. We will get to the SummerSlam prediction show with good old Elvis. And again, thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast here. You can follow us on Twitter at kickashpodcast_. Follow me specifically at ASHMANNS. You can follow the show on TikTok at kickashpodcast. But yeah, without further ado, guys, let's get into the SummerSlam card itself. In no particular order here, the first match I will start with is the Mysterios. Of course, you have Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic facing off against the Judgment Day in a no disqualification match. We did see the return of Rhea Ripley at Madison Square Garden this past Monday, which we touched on, well, at least the venue itself. This past Monday was the return or the anniversary, rather, for Rey Mysterio hitting 20 years in WWE. But I think dude is close to 30 years in his profession and wrestling in and of itself, which is just fucking insane when you think of all the injuries like the knee injuries and things that he's had in the past. I know he's done that stem cell treatment, which apparently has done wonders for him, which is still so fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. But I think Mysterio, he's one of those freak athletes where he's in better shape now than he was probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's crazy because I think maybe this was probably one small sign, but the fact that Ray got a full promo and a full celebration on Raw and it wasn't interrupted, I think is a sign that Vince is no longer there, because that's normally the number one time shit on someone's parade is when they're either in their hometown, it's their birthday, or they're celebrating something, right? So that was one thing that really stood out to me. And dude went on a long promo, like he really Ray said some shit in there, so he thanked pretty much everyone he needed to, rather. But we did later on get the return of Rhea Ripley, which I'm probably biased. I fucking love Rhea Ripley.
I know you do.
I've met her in person, so I will.
You met her one time, and all of a sudden you're in love.
Dude, no, okay, so not to get off on a tangent, but I met her twice, and I realized I don't think I told you on the second time. So, long story short, so I was leaving the gym. It was like around 6:30, maybe 6:45 one day, but it was like a few months ago now. I was walking out, and I hear, "Hey, girl," and I just moved down here, right? So I don't know anyone.
No.
Bro, I fucking swear on my dog's life, bro.
She remembered you?
Bro, like, I look, because at first I'm like, the first few seconds I'm like, they're probably not talking to me because I don't know anyone here. And then I just look over to my right, and she's walking in with, like, I guess a friend of hers. I didn't recognize them. I was like, oh shit. I wouldn't say oh shit. I was like, oh dude, hey, what's up? And she was like, hey. And I said something so fucking dumb, and I was like, I'm so happy for you, because I think it was right after she turned on Nikki ASH or whatever. Like, she was out of her tag team. So I was like, I'm so happy you're out of the tag team bullshit or some dumb shit, you know? Like, so I was kind of like starstruck. But no, like that aside, like Rhea, so obviously I've met her in real life, and she's a fucking, like, just the coolest and dopest human out there. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm stoked she's back. I love the fact that she was wearing the "I'm Your Poppy" T-shirt. I think that was a great tie-in to the whole Ray and Dominic thing. And I love that she beat the shit out of Ray, or tried to. But my official pick is that the Judgment Day will win here. I think that they need to. I think the Mysterios got their win on Raw, which is more than they probably would have a couple weeks ago, with different management in play. But curious to think your thoughts there.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna follow that up. I love your big glass of wine
Oh
because
yes, I just filled up. I brought the
I had to
bottle.
I had to refresh myself. Ooh, you got a
Oh
little
yeah.
crimes. I see you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Um,
Gift. It was actually pretty good.
so I have a lot to say about Judgment Day. So first of all, take it back a little bit. I'll try to be as concise as possible. Where
No,
I
no.
thought they were hitting something key with the Judgment Day. Where first of all, I don't like the name. I don't love the name. I
Yeah.
don't hate the name, but I don't
It
love
was
the
a pay per
name. The
view.
Judgment
Like
Day.
Judgment Day was a pay per view. Like
Yeah, it's weird, right?
yeah, it's weird.
I don't know the talks that went behind the scenes, so I don't love that name. Like anything that's like the has to be really cool. Like I don't know, the Judgment Day is kind of like a lot out of your mouth. But anyway,
Yeah.
Edge running that was great, and we only got like 4 weeks of it. I feel like it was 4 weeks. It could have been more. And then
No.
like it ended abruptly where like it kind of like all of a sudden Edge and there was the corruption of like we don't need you anymore. You always wanted to be the leader, but at the end of the day, now that Edge left the Judgment Day, now they want to recruit people. Like I know your boy from WWE podcast, Matt. Shout out him. He likes to think of things logically, which I try to do, but I also try to give also the leeway of like, all right, think of things logically, but also think of things like, creatively. But like, don't treat us like idiots. Like you put Edge in charge of the the Judgment Day. Sorry, way different. And then all of a sudden you break them up just to have like Finn Balor to like be the head of it. But like you also said that we don't need a leader and we don't need people, but you want to like recruit Dominic. It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of clunky. Like how do you take pride in not being you don't need anybody, but you want people. It's kind of weird. So like I'm trying to make things make sense because if I'm in a WWE creative room, right? If we're two of the 12 or 10 and we're hashing things out, if you bring up a topic, Ash, I have to challenge you. I have to be like, "Wait, you said this, which I like, but like last week we said this." And then
Yeah.
it's like it clashes. So I don't understand with Finn Balor as like the main guy, but like they just dissed out Edge as the main guy. Now they're recruiting Dominic. So I wanted to say that it's weird. It's creative is all over the place with this. But anyway, because it was doing so well before with Edge. I think my prediction is the Mysterios win. And I think it. Oh my God. If this doesn't happen, I think it's ruined. Dominic does turn. I thought Dominic would turn on Ray, on the anniversary, but they saved it for a pay per view. If not, Dominic, turn. I think it's a little clunky. Maybe they're still figuring it out. Obviously, they have the transition from Vince writing whatever or confirming to Triple H, where it might be a little awkward again. It might be like, what is going on? Or Dominic turns on Rey Mysterio. The Mysterios win, but Dominic turns. That's my prediction. It seems weird because it is weird.
Yeah, no, I a
Right? It's
year
weird.
yeah, and like a year ago I was so here for a Dominic turn. Now part of me wonders if I agree with you. Part of me was kind of expecting it on. I didn't expect for Rey Mysterio to get a full celebration without any interruption, without any type of weirdness or any type of anything happening. Because if you're a WWE fan, you know if it's your birthday, like I said, if it's your hometown,
Yeah.
your celebration is gonna get spoiled, right? So I
Uh huh.
figured, okay, and especially at the segment or at the part of the segment where Ray was kind of like thinking like his family specifically and mentioned Dominic and kind of turned to him. I was kind of expecting maybe Dominic to kind of hit him from the back or like maybe do his turn then.
Mm-hmm.
And when he did, I was like, okay, like we're just not gonna get it. And mind you, like obviously, I was expecting it many more times before then, or maybe probably would have expected it or would have called for it. But at this point, part of me is wondering like if we're even gonna get to that point at this point. Um, and I think, and I probably, if Dominic is gonna turn on Ray, this would make more sense than ever. Because you have all this outside influence, you have the cool
Yep.
guys like your Finn Balor, your Damian Priest, your Rhea Ripley, like to a young guy like Dominic, like you're gonna think like a young guy like Damian Priest, or I mean, I know they're obviously a little bit older than him still, but they're still younger than Ray. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Rhea's still younger, so in Dominic's eyes, maybe they're the cooler kids. You know what I mean? Like maybe they're like not everything they've said or done makes sense, but it's not your dad. It's not your family. It's still kind of going against that grain. So I could kind of see it in that respect, but to me, I don't think we're gonna get the turn from Dominic as much as I'd love to see it this Sunday or this Saturday rather. I think the only way the Mysterios really win is if we get an edge return with that weird vignette that's been going on.
Yeah. What is that? It was like I am coming, or
Yeah, I am coming to, and then we
and
just never got
then
like whatever.
exactly
Yeah, so that was the end of
weird.
it. So yeah, we got a new vignette this
How
past
many
Monday.
turns do you want to do on Edge? He's had
Right,
3 turns in a
right,
year. Like, give it
and
up.
and
Figure it
that's
out.
exactly. And to me, that's
Ah,
a whole other cluster in and of itself because it's like, what is he going to come back as? Is he going to come back as this dark, edgy, good guy character?
which
And
is
what does that look like? Or is he going to come back? He, in my opinion, he really can come back as this dark, edgy, bad guy type because he just did that with the Judgment Day and they kicked his ass out. So, like, you can't come
I
back
don't
and
get
be a
it.
bad guy going against the other bad guy group. So, to me, that just doesn't make sense. So, the only way I could really see the Mysterios winning here is if Edge returns and kind of helps the Mysterios win. And Edge is the guy who is actually the character in the vignettes, which at this point, the first week, I was like, maybe it's Bray because just the dark nature of
Yeah,
it.
that did look like a brave vibe.
Yeah, but then all of the signs that we've gotten with it's just kind of obvious and just beating us in the face at this point with the mask, the picture of Seth Rollins, the Jeff Hardy wristbands, and the Kurt Angle medals, just bullshit like that that we've seen
Oh,
throughout
jeez,
Edge's
yeah.
career. It's kind of obvious at this point, at least to me, that it's probably going to be Edge. But I don't know, man. So your official pick for this match is the Mysterios winning?
Yeah, it's a no DQ, which
Yeah,
you would think like the bad guys have it, the heels have it in their hands, but in a no DQ, the Mysterios win the match, but that doesn't mean they win the long term story. So I think something happens, whether it's Edge, whether it's Dominic. I think something goes on because this is too. It's so interesting. I'm so mad because before this, before the Edge thing, I was like all in on the Judgment Day. The music,
yeah,
the intro, everything was amazing. Then they were broken up. It was like Finn Balor's the leader, quote unquote. But like you said, you didn't need a leader. But now like Damian Priest was building himself as like a second wing guy, and he was believable, and it was like awesome. And then now it's just weird. It's just fucking weird. So hopefully Triple H can figure out how to figure out that situation because it's very awkward.
yeah. No, man, I agree. Moving on to the next match that we have, though, is kind of the next and the only topic that I have left off on my little list I wanted to get your opinion on. We don't have to go too in depth here, but is the whole celebrity aspect of kind of in the celebrity crossover and the wrestling landscape in and of itself. and obviously this one is with Logan Paul versus The Miz. If you've listened to my pod in the past, obviously I know you have, but if you're listening to this outside of you and me, I didn't really know the Paul brothers. Before kind of with Bad Bunny, like I'd heard
Really
maybe of the
interesting.
name, but I had never specifically for the Logan Paul and the Paul brothers. I really didn't know much of them at all. I knew the name, like I said. Um, didn't know really much else of them. I don't even really know one of them had done some shit or had some shit that had happened in Japan, or they said some negative shit about some shit that happened in Japan.
Yeah, that's old news. Don't.
Yeah,
That's
the,
we're all skipping past that. If you bring that
yeah,
up, no offense to you, but like that's so old news where it's like not even relevant
and
anymore.
that's what I thought too. So like that's why. And so when he was first debuted into WWE, I was like, okay, like I've heard the name, but like where have I
Yeah.
heard of it from?
Yeah,
And
if I don't
apparently
if
it's
I
when it
don't
just
like
goes
him
brought up.
personally, it's not because of that. It's because of what
Yeah,
he's done
and you know,
re-
like whatever. And, like me, like I've said multiple times, like I've done some stupid shit in the past that I wish I
Of
didn't
course.
do and wouldn't have said. Um, so yeah, you know, like I'm sure Logan Paul of today's age wouldn't have done the shit that he's done in the past. Not excusing everything and putting a blanket statement on that, but for that particularly, I'm just like, how many? I don't know, whatever. But long story short, what do you think of this match in it of it itself? Who do you think is going to win? My official pick here is Logan Paul wins. I think they sorely have both of these guys miscast. Um, I don't really know what to hope for going forward with Triple H and creative control. I think the obvious fix here is a swap between Logan and Miz. I think Miz in this particular scenario, Miz is the obvious babyface. Logan is the heel. I think New
Hmm.
York kind of confirmed that for us.
Yes.
Um,
New
um,
York does confirm a lot of things in
yeah,
life,
yeah. So
for
shout out to
sure.
New York.
Shout out New
Love New
York.
York. But the real kicker is Miz going forward after this isn't in the position to be a babyface. Miz is best as a heel. I think your prime Miz as a babyface would have been 2016 with coming off of that John Cena feud. Him and Maurice were going pretty hot at that point. His reality show, all that good shit. So as much as I hate to say it, my official pick here is Logan Paul wins. And Logan Paul recently did sign a contract with WWE as well, which you can touch on there. But yeah, I know that's again a lot to throw at you, but kind of your opinion on like celebrity crossovers. We obviously have seen Bad Bunny, like I mentioned. We've seen Floyd Mayweather in the past. We've seen back in the day, Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania. Just what you think if it has more pros than cons, if you think it really shouldn't be a thing nowadays. Yeah, just kind of everything in a nutshell.
Yeah, so I'll say first off, Logan Paul versus The Miz. I have Logan Paul, and I put in parentheses because I have every matchup being for like SmackDown title, the undisputed tag title for this. I put in parentheses for balls because
Yeah,
that's all that's all they're talking about is that Miz has no balls, he has small balls,
yeah,
which I would think they're trying to take advantage of the TV-14, which is a quick, very poor way to
yeah,
implement TV-14.
for sure.
They mentioned balls and genitalia and all that in the promos. But yeah, Logan, like in WWE, always a celebrity wins. Like that's probably what 99% of the time. Logan Paul wins over the Miz. The Miz could afford losses because he's just kind of doing his thing. Everybody understands that. Logan Paul, signed a multi-year deal. He's not a Bad Bunny where he's here for a couple events. I think Logan Paul is taking advantage like the boxing thing he does, whether it's versus Mayweather, whether it's podcasting, and I think this is something else. Respect it, love it. That doesn't mean I have to root for it. I think there's a time and a place for celebrities in WWE or wrestling. AEW does a couple things differently where they'll just talk about a guy or bring apart a guy. They don't have to wrestle. WWE takes it. I think Vince is addicted to having a celebrity in a match. He loves it. I think that's his like 20, 30 years ago. That's has always been his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Look at WrestleMania 1.
yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
always been, right? Every WrestleMania there was celebrities involved, and I love it. I love cross promotion. We're doing this right now. Enter the Lab, Kick Ash. We're kind of like, implementing, like, people that don't know about Enter the Lab now know. People that don't know about Kick Ash are now, and I get that. But like, we have two celebrity quote unquote cards in this SummerSlam. And we also don't have an opponent for Seth Rollins. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
Riddle got injured, but
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second.
yeah, we're going forward. Yeah, of course. But like, it's like, damn, when you take away, when you bring in a celebrity or some type of aspect, and I get it, you're trying to cross promote, you're trying to get eyeballs that wouldn't buy the pay per view or subscribe to Peacock, whatever it is, to be a part of it. But you're also taking a part of the wrestlers that are there for you 95% of the year, 98% of the year. So I'm always torn between both, where I understand. Your second question was, where do you stand when celebrities and, matchups? I will always be a fan for cross promotion and celebrities to be a part of wrestling because I think that's important. It got everybody, like Mike Tyson in the 90s. Oh my God. Mike Tyson with
Oh,
Shawn
next
Michael,
level.
DX, Stone Cold. There was celebrities before that, but that was the number one cross promotion of all time. At
Yeah.
the time, for people that don't know, Mike Tyson was suspended from boxing. He couldn't box. Out on bail, or he had probation and he
They
couldn't
just
do
put off
anything else.
Vander Holyfield's ear, right? Is the way
Yeah.
yeah.
Or yes, it
After
was
that.
either that one or he, you know, allegedly raped somebody. So
Oh yeah.
either one. So we'll leave that up to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
internet
yeah.
to confirm that. But because I don't know which one it was, so I
Yeah,
don't
of
want to
course.
misspeak.
Allegedly. Yeah, either way.
But he couldn't basically box. So WWE takes him in, they promote him brilliantly. That's one of the things that Vince McMahon, I will give him that credit.
And
He
that's
booked
that
him.
thing, taking that idea, that kernel, and just making it fucking pop into a full
Boom.
popcorn.
Dude, that was so monumental. So I will always love, and I think everybody will appreciate and love the cross promotion, the celebrity. I think we have two, right? And we'll bleed this into, not to step on your toes, but into the Pat McAfee and Happy Corbin, where it's like, now you got two non wrestlers in a match to promote it. I get it. You want to do it at WrestleMania. You might want to do it at Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. That's your Grand Slam. But it's a lot right now. Like, you're doing a lot. You're trying too much. And that's why I love what I said before. I love AEW. I love the wrestling aspect. There's a time and place for entertainment and fun and whatever that. But I feel like if you're pushing it too much, it overtakes what you're trying to do. So, Logan Paul, he's an athlete. He's going to beat The Miz, in my opinion. It'll be entertaining. I think he showed a lot of athleticism, wrestling-wise, at WrestleMania. He shocked me when I watched that, and he'll probably do the same here at SummerSlam. But you got that match, and then you got Pat McAfee. It's like a lot of non-wrestler. You have two of the 10 matches, non-wrestlers. Like, it's a little too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. So your official pick is Logan Paul, or for that match?
Yes, Logan Paul for the win.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going with Logan Paul myself. And to kind of just transition to the, like you said, the other celebrity matchup we had here. Going a little bit out of order for my list here, but I like it. With Pat McAfee versus Happy Corbin. This one I will give them credit for. And I will give them credit prior to the whole shift in management taking place. The part of me was kind of concerned that they weren't going to hit the obvious backstory that Pat McAfee and Baron Corbin have, which is their football careers, their friendship, their relationship prior, obviously, to WWE, however many years ago that was. So
They
the
did.
fact that,
They did address it.
yeah, and the fact that Pat McAfee obviously did bring it up, and part of me at first was wondering, okay, is this just Pat having more leeway with what he can say promo wise than a lot of your other wrestlers, or him, or the actual like management staff being like, yo, obviously you guys have history. This is probably the only like actual substance we have to a story, so let's just go with that. You know what I mean? So whatever the actual reason is, I'm just happy that they were transparent with it. They addressed the obvious elephant in the room, because a lot of times WWE doesn't,
Yeah, they don't.
yeah, especially with situations like this.
Yeah.
And like for me, like I'm sure and if you listen to my pod in the past, like I'm a huge Pat McAfee fan.
Huge. Same way here.
Yeah, dude, and like for me, to be completely honest, it's a new fandom, probably within the last year-ish, I would say.
Same.
And to be honest with you again, like it was really WWE that really opened my eyes to Pat McAfee. I realized he had a YouTube show. I was like, holy shit, this dude is actually pretty
He's awesome.
fucking entertaining. Yeah. And he was actually someone kind of like you and what Enter the Lab does, and you and Forrest specifically, like, and when Ben is on the show, like, y'all, I enjoy sports, right? Like I am a big basketball fan, a football fan, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know the ins and outs. I know every rule. I know the playbook. I know the ins and outs, everything. I'm probably like a little bit more than a casual fan, but not like a diehard fan. You know what I mean? Like I don't listen to podcasts on football or any specific like sport other than wrestling, specifically other than you guys. But that's why I listen to you guys, because y'all kind of hit like the main talking points on everything. No, just to be real, not even blowing smoke, but like y'all really kind of tie everything in a nice little package with a little bow for me. So with Pat McAfee, he's kind of like in a similar light in that regard. So I really appreciate and I love and I am so happy for the growth for his channel that they've done, because the new deal that they signed with, I believe it was what, DraftKings, like that $30 million a year deal. FanDuel, I'm sorry. DraftKings is with AEW. You're right, FanDuel. Man, just fucking fantastic. And I'm just so, I love seeing a dude or just a human being who bet on themselves. I was like, you know what, fuck this. Like, I'm going to, you said, like, you wouldn't hire me. You said I had to do X, Y, and Z, or I had to fit into this box. I had to dress up. I had to wear a suit. No, fuck this. I'm going to wear my tank top. I'm going to wear my shorts. I'm going to look professional. I'm going to be professional, but I'm still going to be me. You know what I mean? And kind of what I was saying at the beginning of today's show, like the whole Jeff Hardy thing, like for me personally, as a fan of anything in general, if I see you being you, it doesn't matter if I'm 100% like you, like I respect you being you. So that's going to bring me to you. You know what I mean? So Pat McAfee, long story short, was that to me. So for this, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know if I see them putting two celebrities over on the same card, especially being Summerslam.
Good point.
But in the same token too, there was a stat that I saw recently this week that Baron Corbin hasn't won a pay-per-view match or a PLE match since 2019. They were kind of rounding out 2022 at this point. We still have a few months left, but part of me is like, okay, is that a big deal? Are they going to have McAfee lose to set up a rematch? Maybe, because Clash of the Castle is another big pay-per-view, and they're going to want to solidify that. So Pat McAfee is obviously going to be there being a commentator, so having him on the card again could be a it could be a nice little throw it back and run back match. But if I had to put like actual dollars on it and actual currency on it, I don't know, man. This was one of the ones where I told you earlier I was a little hung up on, which is crazy because this has no real substance. It's not for a title or nothing, but I don't know. Long story short, I think I'm still going to put my money on McAfee because I think Corbin can take a loss and just easily bounce back. But if I had to see one of the celebrities losing, I could see Corbin picking up a cheap victory and pulling some quick bullshit like a low
and Pat could sell it Pat
Yeah,
could sell it on
that
his
is a great seller.
podcast. He could be like, "This
Yeah.
sorry
He still
motherfucker
has a fucking
did
neck
X, Y,
injury
and
when they
Z."
went to that UFC fight after whatever
You're right. Oh,
middle of the
with the
day.
neck brace, that was
Yeah, like,
amazing.
dude,
He's
like,
so
he's
good.
a better seller than
You're
90%
right.
of the
That's like a
box.
very good
So it's like,
point. So I'm
yeah,
gonna say Pat. I'm gonna hold you to Happy Corbin. So we
yeah,
could go
yeah,
difference. And I like that point though, where it's like Happy Corbin could cheap out a victory, and then McAfee could sell it on his podcast for a day or two.
hmm
But my other take about it is if Pat wins, Happy Corbin could come back, not because Happy Corbin doesn't fit anymore.
right, right,
He needs a rebrand, right?
yeah,
Obviously, Happy came from being sad and down on his luck. He's not Happy
yeah.
Corbin. That is the worst name in WWE. Next to Theory,
Oh
I
God,
hate the name
like nails
Theory.
on a
Next to
chalkboard.
Riddle, like why is your name Riddle? I could listen. We could have a whole hour podcast about
Oh, and
fucking
the name,
names
yeah,
because it's awful.
easily.
But we won't do that because we have time. So I'll take Pat. I like kind of you taking Happy Corbin as like
Yeah,
a
never
50-50, and then
Yeah,
we'll address it. I got Logan Paul. You got Logan Paul.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Paul.
Logan Paul, and then I have the Mysterios. You have
I have Judgment Day. I have Judgment Day going.
perfect. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, lead
Yep.
the way. Lead the way,
So
Liz.
next up, yeah, on the lineup we have Bobby Lashley versus Theory, your United States Championship match. Obviously, Bobby Lashley is your United States Champion going into the match. Theory is your Money in the Big briefcase holder. He, as if you listen to maybe 3 minutes of any WWE programming, you've heard Theory is the youngest winner of the Money in the Big briefcase that there has ever been in history. So I don't know. The one of the selling points that they're going with here is that Theory could end up being the United States champion and then cash in the briefcase later on and then pretty much hold all the gold, hold the Universal, the WWE Championship, and the
Good
United
point.
States Championship. Obviously,
Great point.
discounting
Imagine.
the Intercontinental Championship rather.
Imagine.
But I mean, if you ask WWE, the Intercontinental Championship doesn't need defending on a PLE or a pay per view anyway, so that's a whole other story in and of itself. But I think this one has to go to Bobby Lashley. I think it's ridiculous if it goes any other direction. I really don't care what's going on, and this is probably just me being whatever. I don't care, but though I feel like Bobby Lashley is a fucking star. His entrance, besides Roman's, I feel is just it literally stops me in my tracks when I know Bobby Lashley is coming out. I hear the beginning of the intro. Whatever it is. Yeah, I know he's coming out. I'm like, oh, let's fucking go. Like I get
Yeah,
pumped, like seeing him on that mantle. Yes, it's a tie back to Chris Masters and the masterpiece and all
love
that
it.
bullshit, but
Fuck it. He
this
ain't
is a
here.
whole nother level advanced. Like Bobby Lashley is a fucking he is a god. He is
Sorry, I'm not sorry.
yeah, he is not human. I think Brock Lesnar gets a lot of praise for being the beast, and yes, but man, fucking Bobby Lashley. If Brock Lesnar was out of the picture, I think Bobby Lashley would have been your beast, and I think Bobby Lashley would have been your Brock Lesnar as we know Brock Lesnar nowadays. So yeah, I don't really give a shit what's happening with Theory later on in the PLE SummerSlam, what's happening with him at the briefcase going forward. I think Bobby Lashley needs to retain this. I would love for it to even be a squash match. I don't think, especially what they've been doing with Theory lately, how he's kind of been at the butt end of the joke lately, with Vince being out and everything. I don't think it's really going to hurt him. I think he can take getting a squash match defeat. Whether he comes out later on, we'll get into that and later on, obviously in the card. But I think Lashley just needs to fucking dominate, be the dominator that he is, retain the championship, and move on to better things, and let Theory do whatever the fuck he's gonna do. And I do hope that he gets his first name back though.
Please
But
bring first names back.
God damn, like Theory is just brutal, man. Like Theory, like Riddle is one thing, but Theory, it's like no.
Theory, like first of all, when it's like Austin, like Theory, Riddle, like what are you doing? What are you creating? Well, you're creating like Batman villains. Like, that's not what you is. Like, I'm not saying that, like, a first name's necessary, but it's like they already had a first name. I
Right.
understand you didn't want, like, Austin Stone Cold and all that. But it's like, hey, some things don't work out like that. You can't manipulate every single aspect of your business. Austin Theory, that's his name. That's what he's known as. Now you call him Theory, and you call this guy Riddle as if he's a gimmick.
Right.
Riddle is not a gimmick. Riddle is not
Or
the
he's like a
Riddler.
Joker character or some shit.
Like, he's not a gimmick. It's like
No.
his name is Riddle. Like, it's okay to be like, if you want to call him Matthew Riddle or whatever, like, that's fine. Whatever. I have so many tangents to go on about that stuff that I wrote down, but I'll save it for later because we're gonna do this more often. So
Absolutely.
I have Bobby Lashley winning the U.S. or retaining the U.S. title. I think because Theory had the title, gave it up to Bobby. Now they're doing the rematch. They're just doing it to keep Theory relevant and to keep Bobby Lashley in a fight and something to build credibility. I think Theory has that Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins edge about him, John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
Like, last 10, 15 years. How many people can you put in that category, right? Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. I hate saying Theory. Those three. Who else was in there? You could throw a little Dean Ambrose in there at times, but, like, really, who were they really investing in the men's division not named Brock Lesnar? It's Austin Theory's the new guy.
Yeah. And I don't even hate it,
I don't hate it either. I love it. I think he's exactly who you want. I love to watch him do a promo, but I also love to watch him get his ass kicked. That's exactly what he should be.
Yeah, and that's where he's exactly where he should be right now. I probably wouldn't have given him the briefcase this year.
No, me neither.
But since they did, it is what it is. And I think that you kind of have to deal with the hand that you kind of dealt yourself, and it just is what it is. But I will say, I do think that he is the future of the company. I think he's one of the futures of the company.
Yeah, I agree.
That to kind of transition here, I think that another individual who is just waiting for his current journey to kind of conclude is Montez Ford. And that brings me to the tag team championship match, the undisputed tag team championship.
Great transition.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I like that bottle you got there. The undisputed WWE tag team champions, the Usos, are going in defending against the Street Profits, and of course you have your special guest referee Jeff Jarrett, Double J, because they're in Nashville. Elvis Escobar. That truly is the only reason that we pretty much have at this point. To their credit, they have done, I think, 2 episodes now, at least with Jeff Jarrett on the screen with both teams. Look, it's no secret WWE's tag division, specific, or I guess for either side, really. The women's is actually worse, but the men's is maybe a little bit better, and that's just because you have people or teams like the Usos and the Street Profits in that division. It's tough though because the Usos are so intertwined with the bloodline, and that, of course, being Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns, when he doesn't win, you don't think the Usos are going to win. Or even if Roman isn't going to lose, rather, if he doesn't even look vulnerable, you're kind of like, oh, well, of course the Usos are going to retain here. It's a no-brainer, right? I don't... For me, I'm not as set in stone with the Usos needing to be tag team champions. Yes, the visual is much better with all the gold and everything like that, but I think at this point, especially with the lack of depth that they have in division, look, I mean, obviously you have the vicious Viking Raiders, or whatever the fuck they're calling themselves now. You've just done too much damage. You have teams in NXT, none of them are ready yet. You're just not ready. So I don't want to see the Usos versus the New Day again. Yes, that match is good. I'm over it. We've seen them in pretty much any match you can think of. I'm just kind of over it. I think the Street Profits need to win here. If I was putting money on it specifically, I'd probably put the Usos to retain. But for our predictions here, I will go out on a separate branch and put my money, or put my pick on the Profits.
Ooh.
Only because, and I know I'm probably gonna lose this pick here, but I say that knowing they've obviously started this new little twist and angle where supposedly there's tension between Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins.
Of course, that always happens.
Yeah,
Between,
and at one point it's going to be, can they coexist? Because can anyone ever coexist in WWE? But I just think right now it's too soon to pull the plug on them as a team. I think you need to give them one final run, and I think this is it. I think the Usos can regain the tag team titles in a month, 3 months, 6 months from now and be totally fine. Or they cannot retain it for a year from now and continue on the bloodline and be absolutely fine. I don't think they need them, whereas I think the Street Profits do. Even if you just give them a 3-6 month run, I think they need something, because then that'll set up your actual turn and your actual breakup. And I think a team like the Street Profits, they are a team that actually does need one member to turn on the other. And I think you do need a Dawkins to turn on Ford. Looking back on your teams like Rated RK Bro or whatever you want to call them, or RK Bro just in general, I think you could have done like an amicable split. But I think with Montez Ford, the fucking star that dude is bound to be, and not even counting him as a power couple with Bianca Belair, I think him and Bianca as a power couple will be the next Triple H and Stephanie, but that's a whole other topic. I think for the immediate future, I mean 6-8 months from now, is Dawkins turning on Ford because he's pissed off that they lost the tag team championships, or he cost them the tag team championships. That sets off their feud. Montez is obviously going to win. No, I'm sorry, Dawkins, you're fucking great, and I think he's really good lately. But Ford is a star, man. I think even The Rock recently has put some stock into Ford as well.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, but dude, like, just fucking looking at that man, like, it's part of me is like, it's a sin that he's still in a tag team, but part of me is like, hold on and squeeze as much out of that as you can. And once you get the very last drop, that's when you break you cut that fruit off. You have Dawkins turn, and you just let Ford fucking run off. So I know it's a long answer, but it's all yours.
No, I get it. It's when I watch both of them, the Street Profits, it's man, on the promo, I'm very like black and white with things, where it's like one guy seems like he knows what he's talking about, and the other guy is trying to seem what he's talking about. Where it's like Angelo Dawkins, it's like he's trying to like be like, yeah, and all these like catchphrases, but man, it's like you just know out of the Street Profits who's the guy. And I think who we know is going to be the solo act, but in this match alone, I have the Usos retaining undisputed. Not to say that the Street Profits are not worthy of it, but I think they could go another angle to build it up. But I think the Usos lose the undisputed tag team titles very soon. And that'll create some chaos, whether it's whether it's a NXT with now Triple H running the show, or NXT, you know what I mean? It's limitless, because tag team titles in WWE aren't really, men or women aren't really sacred. So you never know what's going to come. So the only reason why the Usos are undisputed is because of Roman Reigns. So do you break it up now, or do you wait a little bit? I don't think you break it up now. I think you retain now. You build some other legitimate, and I think maybe at like Survivor Series or something like that down the road, then you create something, because Roman Reigns will be either undisputed into the new year, or he'll be at least one of the two into the new year. So my prediction for this: Street Profits and the Usos. I have the Usos retaining.
It's interesting that you brought up Survivor Series because, which role I'll probably pick your brain a little bit on once we get to that match proper, but Survivor Series this year is going to be interesting because we have technically an undisputed world heavyweight champion, and the whole theme for Survivor Series since the brand split has been brand versus brand and brand supremacy and all that bullshit. And this is the one time a year where Raw faces SmackDown, regardless
all
of
that
how many times
bullshit.
they faced, right? You know,
Yeah.
so in this regard, your heavyweight champion and the main selling point for Survivor Series. And maybe not the main point because a lot of people would say like your 5-on-5 tag match is your main selling point. But lately to me, probably it's been like the brands facing off against each other. You don't have that this year. You for the tag division or the heavyweight division, and that's pretty much been the anchors really. They haven't really put much hype on like the Intercontinental Championship. Your Undisputed Championship is just kind or I'm sorry, your United States Championship rather is just kind of there. So your secondary titles are just kind of just lackluster. So Survivor Series is really gonna be interesting this year, which is why I was kind of like I said, we'll get into it with the main event here. I was interested to see whether, especially tonight, if they were going to throw in anything at the last minute. That Theory was going to say, okay, well, if I cash in the briefcase, I'm coming for you, Roman, for your WWE Championship.
Yeah.
Specifically naming one and not just the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship. And naming, okay, I want like the Raw specific branded title or the Universal Championship, which he's held now for, I think, going on 700 days is what I think maybe officially Sunday is going to be the count. Something to that effect. But I don't know. Survivor Series is definitely going to be interesting this year for that in and of itself. But moving on to the next match that we have here, kind of piggybacking off of that, we have the Raw Women's Championship. We have the Raw Women's Champion, of course, is Bianca Belair defending against Becky Lynch. And I am going to shut my mouth here and let you go first with your prediction.
Ooh, I like it. So my first, it's funny because I think I'm reading off her vibe because I felt like you were going to deflect to me first. My first note is, does Bianca turn? And I think there's a great opportunity here. Yeah, turn, and it could be a double turn where Bianca, it goes from babyface to heel, and then Becky Lynch goes from heel to babyface because she lost her title, what was it, now at like year and a half, 2 years to having a baby, and then she had to give it up. And that's the storyline where it's like, oh, I didn't lose my title, I gave it up. And I love that. I love that you can keep that storyline, you know, in your promotions. Whether,
and it's true.
And it's true. It's literally true. Like, she didn't lose the title, she gave it up. And it was during the COVID era, so there's a lot about that, right? I don't mind, you know, Bianca Belair has been I love her as a feel-good, as a great, I'm the EST, girl, all that stuff. But there's times where she's annoying to me. Right, she's very annoying. It's like, oh, just somebody kick her in the face. So,
especially this past Monday.
Yeah, it's like subtly she's, oh, I'm the EST, and I get it. And I've heard Matt from the WWE podcast say like, there's never been a babyface that's gloated so much that has stayed babyface. So I understand that. Bianca Belair comes in.
Throw The Rock in there for argument's sake.
Yes.
You know, just the obvious one, but I know that's a whole other topic, but yeah.
Yeah.
And not your argument.
I'll finish up my argument right here. Bianca Belair, in my opinion, comes in babyface. Becky Lynch comes in as heel. Becky wins the Raw title, and I think there's a double turn on it. And I think Bianca Belair is a great heel. I think she's already cocky and confident, and that's a feel-good story because she's been babyface for so long. But like in a heel she could be very obnoxious, and I could get behind her in a heel setting. And Becky Lynch sells tickets, so you could go from here to Survivor Series, from Survivor Series to Royal Rumble to WrestleMania. So you could kind of sell the WrestleMania and everything from Becky. So that's kind of where it goes from macro to micro, both sides of Becky Lynch.
Yeah, so in your official pick then is Bianca retaining?
No,
Returning heel or
Becky wins, and then the double switch
and then do the
happens
double
where,
turn.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so God, like for this one, it's hard for me because I don't know, like part of me, and I don't know how they get there, but part of me sees Becky facing off against Ronda for the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania next year. And like I said, I don't know how we get there. I don't know if the Royal Rumble comes into play or what have you, but I think, and while I would absolutely fucking love to see the double turn, because I would, like you said, Bianca is a fantastic heel, and the whole EST is a heel statement. Yes, and I'll give her credit, she has made that as much as a good guy sentiment and endearment as she could, but like goddamn, like you can only call yourself the best in the EST of something for so long without it getting to the point where it's like, okay, chick, like we get, like you think you're the best, but it's like,
Yeah.
are you really? And it's like, like yeah, like you're in phenomenal shape, like you're beautiful, like all that good stuff, but it's like, where's your put your money where your mouth is, I think. And granted, she has, but there's just something with this babyface version of her that's just kind of running a little thin to me, and that's why I would love to see the double turn. Going back to when Becky returned, I thought it was a huge fucking miss that they didn't go into WrestleMania having Becky as the babyface going against Ronda as the champion. So to me, I'm still harboring that resentment for WWE or towards WWE. So long story short, I think Bianca retains here. I don't really know what we do with Becky going forward. Somehow, I think she gets to SmackDown. I don't know how, but I think we'll get there. But yeah, I'm
Well,
going.
the draft, it should be a draft in September, October. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, and like I said, so you can do that, and I think with Bailey coming back probably soon-ish as well,
Bailey, Charlotte,
an even trade there essentially. So yeah, there's a few ways, and at this point is they could just be like, fuck it, you know what? I mean, Drew McIntyre just showed up on Raw last week for no reason in the Garden, so it's just like, you know what? Like everyone, there's like an elephant in the room where like, okay, we're kind of there's a lot of changes going on.
Do what we want.
Just do what the fuck you want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my official pick, kind of partnering up with you there, is going to be Bianca Belair retaining.
They could go on that. They could create. Think about it. So you have an opportunity to create chaos with a storyline. Hey, and before the 2000s, because of the internet, where you could say Triple H is taking over, Stephanie is taking over. You have a small window to just create chaos and just be like, oh shit, AJ Styles supposed to be on SmackDown. Now he's on Raw. Like
But
you could create
deal.
chaos and it could be believable, meaning like, oh shit, you could play storyline like Triple H doesn't have a shit in order because it came so quick. Like you could make a storyline about chaos happening. Like that's believable versus like, oh, once a year or twice a year you have SmackDown and Raw. Like, no. All right, Michael Cole, shut the fuck up. Like, no, you could literally create chaos off of like something that's really going on. And that's what you have to take advantage of.
Yeah, and that's why, like we were mentioning earlier with the whole changes and everything, you don't have to strike now, but you would be kind of foolish in a lot of ways not to. At least
do it. Go
have
crazy.
Some signs showing that you're doing something, you're acknowledging the change, you're doing something. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm totally right there with you, man. But moving on to the next matchup on the card here, we have the SmackDown Women's Champion to round out the women's division in and of itself. We have the SmackDown Women's Champion going in as Liv Morgan facing off against Rowdy Ronda Rousey. I will go ahead first with this one. You know, like
Go ahead. Go ahead. It's not that easy.
Yeah, my gripe is the Ronda we're seeing is not the real Ronda, and it's so fucking obvious. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see it.
Yeah.
It doesn't take you being a fan of hers outside of the WWE to see it. You look at Ronda Rousey, you know she is not who she truly is. Like, there's something in her that's being just
weird, right? Like, just holding back.
Exactly. There's something that's being confined inside of her and just waiting to be unleashed. And it's like, okay. If you're going to have Liv Morgan win the briefcase and cash in at the same PLE, cool, fine. And you're going to have her going against Ronda Rousey, whatever, fine. You have the handicap and the crutch going into it. Okay, she just went through this grueling match against Natalya. Natalya beat her down, XYZ. She had this, and this injury. Whatever. Doesn't matter. The moment they lost me is after the match, where you had Liv win the championship. The match was over with. They're kind of looking at each other. You do a simple Google search of Ronda Rousey. You know this chick is not a fair loser. She is she is a sore loser to the T. And I have a fucking Ronda Rousey hoodie in the back.
Which I like sore losers. I don't take losing well.
Dude, my hoodie of hers is from her before she even thought about joining WWE. It's one of her "Don't be a do nothing bitch" hoodies when she had like that whole propaganda shit going. I obviously bought into it. I wear that hoodie fucking all the time. So I am a Ronda Rousey fan. So and maybe it's just me knowing too much of her. The Ronda Rousey that we saw after Money in the Bank, after she lost the championship, is not the true Ronda Rousey. It doesn't even have to be the WWE version of Ronda Rousey or the real life Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey, if you know her in any realm, if that chick loses, she is going to be fucking pissed off, and she is going to be a sore loser, whether she is in the right place of mind and she should be or she shouldn't be. Whether she is 100% obligated to be, hey, I was fucking cheated out of this victory, I was X, Y, and Z, or yeah, everything happened as it should have. She just lost fair and square as she did a Holly Holm, and it just wasn't her night. And oh well, like shit happens, you know. To see her fucking shake hands with Liv Morgan was where they lost it for me. If you want to have Liv Morgan cash in, cool, whatever. I wouldn't have done it then, fine. You want to do it then, cool. You have her cash in. You have fucking Ronda Rousey turn on her. Either that night, which I think you definitely would have struck with the iron is hot, or if you want to drag it out to the following week on SmackDown, you can do it then. But I think that still would have been losing some steam from it.
There's been so many changes since. And my argument to that is there's been so many changes where in the behind the scenes where it's like the McMahons knew this change was coming 2 weeks ago. So it's like they knew this was coming. So was it a clash of like opinions? Was it a clash of creative? Like, hey, I'm Vince. I want to go out on this way. So there's been a lot going on in the last 4 to 6 weeks that we don't even know about.
Yeah.
So maybe, and it doesn't excuse the fact that there's been chaos like this over the last 2, 3, 4 years. It's been consistent. It's like, oh, there's been chaos over the last year. No, it's been chaos for years. Like, figure it the fuck out. Be creative. Like, do something different. You guys are so cookie cutter and like Disney. Like, you're Disney. You're Disney.
You would think someone is telling them they can't do X, Y, and Z when literally they have the power to do whatever the fuck they want.
And there are because they're publicly traded and they're told, hey, you're better off doing this over that.
Yeah.
Bottom line. Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, man, and this one honestly is weirdly hard to pick. for me, and especially what we saw tonight with the whole tag match, I didn't catch the whole match, to be honest with you, with Liv and Ronda Rousey. Can they coexist tag team? Part of me is like they like Liv too much to take the title off of her so quickly. So part of me, that's why I think officially my pick is going to be that Liv Morgan retains, even though saying that I feel so crazy to say out loud. And like, dude, like, I don't know. If I was specifically putting money on it, my money may be on Ronda just because that's a little bit of a safer bet. But something is telling me that Liv is going to win somehow. And I don't know if that's someone interfering in the match without the referee seeing and Liv picking up the victory that way.
That's what I felt.
I don't know if that's going to be the case because Liv is such a pure baby face. So I don't know if they really want to taint her in that respect. But, dude, I don't see them defeating Liv because really, like, at this point, what else does Liv have? Like, they already went through the storyline of Liv, like, having the underdog storyline, going and challenging against Becky in the championship on Raw and losing. So her winning the briefcase is supposed to be her redemption story. So she's won the championship. She's redeemed herself, and you have her lose against the first really, truly formidable opponent that she has. So in that regard, and that's why I'm putting my money on her winning here, as crazy as that fucking sounds.
Yeah, no, I have Liv winning as well.
Okay, good. Good.
Well, feel a little better. No, but I have an asterisk with Liv winning is either Charlotte comes back or Bailey.
Bailey, yeah.
Yeah, I have one of those. I have like, if Charlotte comes back, in my opinion, it's like, all right, if Charlotte comes back, I want Liv to win. Like, if I'm Charlotte, I want Liv to win to enhance my, right, if I'm thinking storyline, like, oh, I want Liv to win. I fear Ronda. She's going to be out a couple months. I want Liv to win so I can have the best way to win.
Absolutely.
And that's and then maybe Charlotte wins long term, or Bailey interjects, which that could be either way, babyface or heel. So I think that matchup has somebody interfering, one of the two.
Yeah, and man, like, it's so crazy to me, but like at this point, I'm just sitting here thinking, when do you bring Bailey back at this point?
I don't know. She's been healthy she was supposed to be out she's been out for what, 18 months?
Yeah. She's been
like
out for 18,
18 months for an injury that takes a year to recover max.
Not even.
She's been healthy. That means she's been healthy for 6 months. So
at least
they've been saving her. Obviously, like I said, the change in creative doesn't help because now all of a sudden you got to recreate that. But she's been ready to go for at least 6 months, you would think.
So I looked it up really quick. So the first article that I pulled up it states that former Raw Women's Champion Bayley has been on the injury list since suffering a torn ACL while training ahead of an I Quit match against Bianca Belair that was scheduled to take place at Money in the Bank in July 2021. So we're over a year now. Because we're obviously going into SummerSlam at this point, which is obviously the card that we're predicting here. But Money in the Bank itself was last month, if we're going calendar to calendar. So the fact that Homegirl has been out specifically over a year now, if we're talking, like I said, calendar year to year pay-per-view wise, I don't know, man. I part of me at this point is like, do you just hold off until the fucking Royal Rumble at this point to bring Bayley back? Do you bring her back on a randomly hyped SmackDown special that you need to get good ratings for? I don't know. I think this is the last pay-per-view wise that you have that's going to be noteworthy and big enough, like one of the big 4 or 5. Obviously, Survivor Series is another one, but Survivor Series isn't really geared towards like a specific individual return. And I don't really see what you would do to, like, if you did bring her back at SummerSlam. Like, yeah, she can fight or face off against Liv Morgan, but it's like, is that really the full effect that you want from Bayley returning? Yeah, so I don't know. And I say this, and fucking Bailey can return tomorrow night at SummerSlam, and I'll be the first one to jump out of my seat, right? Because I fucking love Bailey. So I don't know. I think for me at this point, it's just like at this point, just hold her off to the Royal Rumble. You know, like
Yeah.
give her a few extra months. You know, what is it gonna hurt at this point? Um, but yeah, my official pick is Liv, and I think yours was as well, right? For this match.
I was listening to you the whole time. For the record, for people that don't know, I went to pee for the last 45 seconds of your rant. I heard every bit of it and I felt great. Now I'm back. But yeah, for the record, my result is for Liv. I think Rhonda is not, she's short time promo, not long time. I think Liv isn't ideal. Liv is in the now. So I think Liv lives another reign and then somebody comes out. Whether it's Charlotte, whether it's Bailey, I think her reign is short lived. Pun
I see what
intended.
you did there. I see what you
Yeah.
did there.
I see
So
what you did. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Before we officially get to our main event of the SummerSlam card, the match or a match that was removed
Yes.
was the Seth Rollins versus Matt Riddle match for SummerSlam rather. I'll save my prediction at this point because it's pretty irrelevant. But my main question here is, and to be completely transparent, Riddle seems to be okay. It seems to be something that WWE
Oh, you
is
got sources?
specifically. No, I wish, I fucking wish, bro. No, but from what I read, that it was a last minute thing that they're kind of holding off on that match to have that specific match debut at Clash of the keep wanting to say, and I said this on the last pod too, the Clash of the Champions, Clash of the Castle rather. I always
I
want to
know,
say
yeah.
Clash of the
It's what it
Champions.
used to be. Yeah, it's what it
Yeah,
used to
bro,
be.
yeah. When I think of Clash, I think champions. But
Exactly. I feel
do
you.
you think do you think Seth ends up having a match on SummerSlam? Do you think he's completely scrapped 100%? We see nothing of him, or do you think we see some type of backstage segment where he's having a fit? We already saw him on Twitter say whatever he was going to say. I think I may even have the transcription of it here somewhere, but to the effect where Triple H actually addressed it, right? Like Triple H responded to his tweet and was like, yeah, pretty much, bro, I hear you. So do you think we see Seth on the card? And I do. Look at that. Holy shit. I do have Seth's tweet here. He said, or actually this was WWE's tweet. WWE tweeted that WWE Rollins injured Super King of Bros, which is Riddle's handle, which is just fucking great. With a vicious attack on hashtag WWE Raw that resulted in of course this is WWE, a brachial plexus injury, in parentheses, a stinger. Riddle is medically disqualified until full strength returns due to this injury rather. Riddle versus Rollins at SummerSlam has been postponed. And then Rollins followed up with saying, quote, for anyone who purchased a ticket to hashtag SummerSlam hoping to see me in action, I apologize. I did everything I could over the last 6 months to earn my spot on the show, but some things are out of my control. Thank you for always singing my song. They'll hear you someday. And then Triple H did respond with, I hear you, to Rollins. So yeah, a lot there for you again. But yeah, do you think we see anything with Seth? Do you think it's going to be something similar to an open challenge like WrestleMania that we specifically had for Seth, where he was actually in the ring, he's waiting for an opponent? Do you think we see him somewhere backstage bitching and complaining to Triple H? Do you think we just have his music, he comes out, he says something, and then out comes his opponent? Or do you think we see nothing of Seth and it's just business as usual?
So this is a freak accident. Obviously, it wasn't perfect in this storyline with Riddle, which is unfortunate. If Riddle is either legitimately injured or storyline injured and he's not on the card, Seth Rollins has earned every right to be around SummerSlam. There's been times where he was involved in WrestleMania, that he was injured, and he's paid his dues, and he is a top 5 guy. He's whether it's on the mic, whether it's character, whether it's wrestling, pure wrestling, he deserves every moment of that respect to be on a card. The fact that Seth Rollins may not be on the SummerSlam card is unfortunate. Hopefully he will. Hopefully, obviously, like WrestleMania, where it was like a build-up, where I still kind of feel like they didn't have a card for him. Like, if it wasn't for Cody Rhodes, I don't think Seth Rollins would have wrestled at WrestleMania. So it was like kind of weird, but like, all right, at least we have somebody. And the same things happen now, where it's like, he didn't have an opponent solidified. Seth Rollins is brilliant. I think he's obnoxious as a heel. He's done everything he can to be, like I said, obnoxious, annoying, a guy that just has his laugh, everything about it. He's mastered, which is very hard in today's wrestling to master the art of, all right, I like him, but I fucking find him annoying. And, there's very few in WWE. It's sad. It sucks because he's a great wrestler. He's a great promo, great person from everything I've heard. He wants it more than anybody else in the business. One of the things that, quote unquote, pun intended, freaks me out is that they call him fucking Seth freaking Rollins all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Why do you have to call him, oh, the next opponent is Seth freaking... Stop right. Driving things down our throat. Stop calling him Seth freaking Rollins every opportunity. It's weird. It's awkward. It's obtuse. Everything about it. Stop jamming freaking down our throat. And that's what I'll end on. That speaks for itself. Like, you're calling him Seth Rollins. You want to call him Seth freaking Rollins, but you're jamming it down our throat. Like, this guy is brilliant. This guy's brilliant on promo, on character, in the ring. Stop trying to do so much to him. It doesn't need it. Let him be himself. So that's it. I love Seth Rollins. I love Seth Rollins when I didn't agree with him with The Fiend in Hell in a Cell. I agree, and I'm with him when he's not on SummerSlam, if he's not. I also agree with him when I didn't know WrestleMania he was going to be with Cody. This man's brilliant. This guy's the pillar. When you talk about AEW pillars and all that, Seth freaking Rollins is a pillar in the WWE. I don't want to hear anything else. So the fact that you couldn't find him a way to sneak in, whether it's for Intercontinental, and he loses. It's okay if he loses. I don't think differently if Seth Rollins loses a match, because he's lost plenty of matches at WrestleMania, whatever it is. He just needs to be a part of the card.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a comparison made, and it may have been through PW Torch. I'm pretty certain it was them. I think the specific contributor was Tyler. I'm slipping on his last name, but he kind of compared him to, and this may sound crazy, so just hear me out, but to Macho Man Randy Savage back in the day, where you had your Hulk Hogan, which to our equivalent right now would be Roman Reigns, right?
Reigns, yep.
You have your Roman Reigns, your Hulk Hogan. But
that's a great reference, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to make sure I gave him credit. To the flip side, you have, and you always have to have that flip side no matter what industry you're in, whether it's wrestling, baseball, basketball, you have to have an opponent or you ain't shit, really. Like you can sink every 3-pointer, you can sink every free throw, you can throw every touchdown you want, but if you don't have an opposition that's worth a damn, you ain't shit. So that's really across the board. So yes, you have your Hulk Hogan's, but you have to have your Macho Man Randy Savages in the sense that you have to have your, pun intended for you, your utility player. You have to have, you have to have that key individual where you can throw them in any situation, any matchup, anything, and they will adapt. They will not only adapt, but they will thrive. And Seth freaking Rollins is that fucking dude. And I hope
Yeah.
when we get to TV 14, we get some quote
Oh,
unquote
please.
slip and they say Seth fucking Rollins, because like if you're gonna hit us
Please.
over the head with freaking, we deserve one fucking
I hate
at
it.
this
It sounds
point.
so awkward ass, and I want to
Yeah.
cut you off. Please, Seth freaking Rollins. Oh, a
It's a
matchup.
t-shirt.
It's obnoxious. It's weird. It's like
Yeah.
you're saying freaking every time. It's like, first of all, do you want to say fucking? It's okay. But also, stop saying freaking. It's
Yeah.
weird. Stop saying Seth freaking Rollins. Just say his name. His name is Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be a gimmick. It doesn't have to be like a t-shirt. Not everything has to be a t-shirt, bro.
Yeah. And who always said it because he couldn't say fucking, at one point. And for a lot of shit WWE gets, this is one of them. They grasp onto one thing and they fucking bleed it to the last minimal drop that they can. And they will squeeze every little bit that they can out of whatever it is until they can't anymore. So, and freaking is one of them, because it's at the
So
point now where
bad.
you can't say Seth
I
Rollins if you're
hate
on
it.
commentary.
I hate it.
You have to say Seth freaking Rollins. So I hope with Triple H
It's
and
so
play.
awkward.
Yeah, dude. I hope with Triple H and play, that's one of the things where it's not like a mandate where it's like someone is going to blatantly say, "Oh, we don't. It's no longer sports entertainment. It's professional wrestling." It's just one of those things where we notice, like, where they're saying, like, "Oh, like they're actually saying the word wrestling. They're saying Seth Rollins, and they're
They're
not saying freaking."
wrestlers.
They're
They
just
wrestle.
yeah, they're just wrestlers. So yeah, so
Superstars, universe. I love the fact that you brought that up on your last episode, Ashley, and this is my way to promo you. Is like you hit a point on, like, there's something's gotta give. Like, when you create a new era in something, you need to establish yourself. And Triple H, if he's going to be a new creative, you need to establish yourself like, hey, this is my show now. And I understand and I'm grateful and I'm respectful for Vince McMahon. I understand that. But this is my show. I need from August 1st to carry on, because August 1st is, I think, is on
it's
a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Monday. It's perfect.
It's perfect. Like, literally establish yourself, meaning you don't change things just to change it. Like, oh, I'm going to change it just to be different. No, you assess it and you go, okay, these are the things that we've been meaning to change. Then now we're moving up, and that's what we're going to do. And
We're
it's
fucking
healthy. It's
professional
healthy.
wrestlers. Fucking professional wrestlers. Like that in and of itself, like sports entertainment, yes. Like I am not one of those people who fucking cringes or shits on the term sports entertainment. In a lot of ways, it makes sense to me. Professional wrestling, yeah, it is sports entertainment. And a lot of things, if you really think about it, yeah, football, basketball. I'm not going to say soccer because I'm not really that entertained by soccer. No offense to all the soccer fans out there, but like, and I played soccer, but sports is entertaining. You know what I mean? Like fucking Steph Curry, like a lot of the players that you grow and you love, you have a connection to, you have an emotional connection to, and they entertain you. It's not, you watch basketball because it's entertaining, not just because of the sport in and of itself. Correct me if I'm wrong, like it's entertaining.
Right.
You're not like you specifically, like you're not just watching them because they, like Steph Curry for instance, can sink a shit ton of threes. You're watching it because the game in and of itself is going to be entertaining for various reasons. So a lot of shit is fucking sports entertainment, you know what I mean? So I think just breaking away and whether you want to be blunt with it or you want to just be more gradual with it, I think just little things can really add up to a lot. But I think unless you have anything else, we are the last match on the list here is the main event.
Yep.
Do you have anything else before we dive into the main event?
No, whoever faces Seth Rollins, I think one of the points you made in the last podcast of your episode, Kick Ash, was they should bring somebody up from NXT, and if they're gonna be like, oh, Triple H is taking over, which we all fucking know. Make it, and it doesn't matter who wins. It's just the fact that, like, maybe a title contender or somebody that they're trying to build up faces Seth Rollins. It doesn't matter who wins. If Seth Rollins loses or wins, it doesn't matter. It's just like something that has something, has some substance. So when I heard that on your latest episode, I was like, that makes sense. Bring up somebody. It's like coming up from the minor leagues. Like, you have somebody that's going to go in the Hall of Fame versus somebody that's going to go, trying to make it to the Hall of Fame.
Just
Let
trying
them
to
face
get
each
on
other.
the main roster. Yeah. So
Let's do it.
yeah. So really quick, so I think I know, for instance, like from NXT specifically, like a Carmelo Hayes, and I don't follow you. And I would be lying if I said I watch NXT 2.0 religiously every week.
I'm familiar
myself.
with him, though.
Yeah, but Carmelo Hayes, he's a badass wrestler in and of himself.
Confident,
Yeah.
flamboyant. He would
Not
be the
saying-
guy that even in a loss, he would be, he wouldn't
Exactly.
be discredited.
Exactly.
And
And I'm not saying
that's important.
Any of the wrestlers who were to face Seth should beat Seth. I think Seth should get the victory here.
He should.
Especially with the amount of losses that he's sustained facing against Cody Rhodes. And granted, I do believe that Cody should have won all of those matches. I'm not saying that was the wrong choice, but Seth needs a lot now too. Seth at least needs one solid victory. So I could see like a Carmelo Hayes. I could see that being a good 15, 20-ish minutes, depending on the length of the card and the other matches that you have. I could see that being a good match. I could see you, even if it's just for one night, I could see you bringing back a Johnny Gargano. He's already going to be in the area. He's going to be in Nashville because he's going to be attending StarCast, which is what Conrad Thompson is kind of holding up right now. So yeah, I think Johnny Gargano could be a cool one-off, and he's obviously close and tight with Triple H, so that's probably not that hard of a call if he's available. But other than that, there's some off-the-wall choices. You have like your Bray Wyatt. The Fiend did obviously debut that character at SummerSlam. I think it was 2019. So you could throw back to that, and they obviously have a lot of story there, but. Do you specifically see him having a open challenge-ish match really quick? Do you have a specific opponent in mind, or do you think they're just going to leave him off the card and it's time to move on to the main event?
I think because he tweeted what he did and then Triple H was like, I hear you. I think that was his way of putting himself some way in it. I think Seth Rollins faces somebody, whether it's a legit comeback guy as a one-off, whether it's like, I have a list: Edge, Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, Goldberg, John Cena. Not saying any of those, but I'm just saying that's one option. Or it's the NXT vibe where it's like, oh, I don't have an opponent because my guy couldn't show up. I still want to have a match. Come out here. And then it raises the brand awareness because in sports, in baseball, for example, that's going on now, you want to see minor league baseball players, hey, let's see what he got. Let's see if he could handle the major league fastball versus the minor league fastball. Like, same thing with Seth Rollins. Like, okay, Seth Rollins versus the, North American champion or the NXT. Like, let's see that going on. It doesn't matter who wins or loses as long as it's a quality match. Let's go. Let's have fun.
And you can bring Carmelo Hayes in his music can hit and he can get absolutely no reaction. And he can go 8, 10, 12, 14 minutes into the match and fucking build that rapport with the crowd. And they can be like, oh shit, this dude's legit. And be like, oh, I have to tune into NXT 2.0 on Tuesday to follow this guy and to see what he can do, because obviously I loved him with Seth, and I can only imagine what he's doing as the champion going forward. So
and guess what? If it doesn't go anywhere at first, it'll be a build-up for 5 years from now.
You can always
all of a sudden, 5 years from now, you got a promo.
Exactly. So there's just so many things. I mean, you do have your Solo Sequoias down in NXT as well, who can be caught up to the bloodline. So there's a lot of different ways you can go, but part of me, like, it's almost blasphemy if you don't have Seth on the card.
Yeah,
And I
it
read
is
something
weird.
that he had been on every SummerSlam since 2013. So part of me is like, you can't not have him on there if he's healthy. But yeah, man, I don't know. So what was your official pick? Do you think he officially is on the card and it's just like an open challenge type ish thing, or do you think he's officially off the card?
So depending, I think he's on the card. I think they squeeze him in. I think they balance it out. Whether it's a normal match is 10 minutes and they squeeze it in and they try to figure it out. I think he's on it because there's been enough, controversy in that way.
Yeah.
But I think if they make an NXT guy come up, he should win because it shows the dominance. Like, okay, you made your way up. You're almost there, but I'm still better than you. And like Seth Rollins, over the last few years, he hasn't gotten many wins. Like, he
Right.
doesn't get WrestleMania wins. He's been in everything. Like, give the boy a win.
Yeah.
Like, please. Like, so I
Yeah.
think they should give him a dub against a younger guy, which would make more sense versus like an Edge or somebody that's like more solid. Give him an NXT star that show a quality match that he could win it and have, all right, at least a one on SummerSlam. But also, it's like, give him a little credibility here because he's deserved it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Well, I think after all that, we have finally made it to the main event of the SummerSlam
Let's
card
go.
itself. Yes, and that, of course, is the undisputed WWE Universal Championship match itself. Your champion going into the match is Roman Reigns, defending against Brock Lesnar. This, of course, is the last man standing match. A lot of people have compared the SummerSlam card in and of itself as a WrestleMania Night 3 type card, and not really that much originality, just kind of like a bunch of repeats and rematches and things like that. This match, obviously, I think this may be the 10th or 11th time we've seen specifically these two guys face off against each other.
It's been a lot.
It's been a lot. It's been a lot. Obviously the first WrestleMania match was back at WrestleMania 31 where Seth Rollins cashed in the Money in the Bank. So we do have that kind of elephant in the room to kind of piggyback on theory from earlier on in the night with him cashing in the briefcase and maybe running back that storyline since obviously Seth cashed in against Reigns and Lesnar at WrestleMania 31. So you do have that kind of on the back burner. I'm going to be completely blunt with you. I'm not eager and looking forward to this match. Looking at the card in a totality, I think I'm more excited just because you and I have talked about the match. I love wrestling. A lot of factors going into it. It's just SummerSlam, I think WWE gets a lot of cachet with just the name value in and of itself. The
Yeah,
WrestleMania, the
for sure.
SummerSlam, the pay-per-view, just the fact that it's a pay-per-view or a PLE itself. To me, I know and they know I'm going to watch at this point.
Yeah, they all have us by the balls.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, you can charge me $5 a month, $10 a
Yeah.
month, $50 a month. You know I'm gonna fucking watch, and I don't know what that says about me, which is a whole other pod, which we don't have time for right now.
That's true.
But long story short, I don't see them doing anything drastic here. It brings me back to what I've been kind of beating over a dead horse at this point on my podcast. I don't think that you need to bring Brock Lesnar back for this specific match. I think you could have easily gone to an AJ Styles, a Bobby Lashley, someone else on the card. Yes, it wouldn't have changed my mind that Roman Reigns is going to retain, but we wouldn't see the same fucking match we just saw a couple months ago, where you just played up their match at WrestleMania Night 2 being the biggest match ever, essentially, and the biggest WrestleMania match. Pretty much a match that is must see and can't miss. So to turn around and see it a couple months later, granted it's the 10th or 11th time at this point as well. I know I sound really negative. The match itself, I'm sure is going to be pretty dope, especially with it being a last man standing match. They're going to do some probably bizarre shit and just outside of the wall shit with chairs, with it being Lesnar and Reigns, probably no ladders, anything too off the wall or anything like that. But I'm hoping a lot of brutality. I think with the last man standing match in and of itself, especially if it's going to have that moniker and you're going to come back to this the amount of time that you've had, you got to do something brutal. So I don't know. I think Reigns retains. But I'm not a fan of bringing Lesnar back to lose again. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I see Reigns retaining here. I don't see him losing. I don't see Theory cashing in the briefcase. I think they would have made it more prevalent to whether Theory was going to cash in on one title specifically or just at least clarify that. But what is your take?
Roman Reigns remains undisputed champion. It's pretty simple. Brock Lesnar is a selling point. I think him walking out or threatening to walking out with Vince, he's the last of that throwback where it's like, I'm gonna, Undertaker, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, like they just loved Vince because they knew they controlled Vince in a way. Like,
Yeah.
what we talked about before, where I respect Vince as a businessman, but in creativity, it's like there's certain wrestlers that controlled him as much as he controlled them. So it's like, there's certain wrestlers that know, like, hey, this is how it's going to go down as Brock Lesnar, and he knows it. So Brock Lesnar's, like timestamp or, how long he's in WWE has just decreased since Vince has gone away, which is fine, which is probably for the better because sometimes you need to move on from it. But Roman Reigns' time is now. The name, think about it. Roman Reigns. Like, that's a great name. First of all, my name is Elvis Escobar, but my real name is Raymond. The name Ramon, Razor Ramon, all that is just so powerful. It's just like Roman Reigns. It's the greatest probably fucking name that WWE has ever created.
Yeah.
Is it not?
No, you're so right. As
Roman
much as we give
Reigns.
them for a lot of the shitty names,
Oh my god!
when they get it, fucking Roman Reigns, like
Jesus Christ!
Roman Reigns,
Like, just hearing you say it makes me feel like, holy shit! It's the first time I ever heard it.
Roman fucking Reigns.
Holy fuck!
Yeah.
So and the history he comes from, and he'll have the legacy. So, to cut that out, Roman will be probably undisputed, if not universal, for many months, many years, as he should, because he's carrying that title. My prediction, Roman beats Brock Lesnar. Whether it's, I know it's a last man standing. There could be a lot of in between things that could happen, whether it's, the Usos come out and then maybe another good team. But I think Roman retains and we go forward. I think Brock takes another 6 months off. He reviews everything that goes on. But, Roman reigns as undisputed champion, and he does his thing. Rightfully so. How many times in the last 10, 15 years have we had a champion that we look at, we go, oh shit, that's a legit champion. Like, I sent that video to you of those kids, and I think it was in like Africa or whatever. Like,
yeah,
it's just everything. His slow walkout. Like, I remember that being a thing when he first came out. It was like, oh, it's a little obnoxious. It takes a lot of time, but like, that's his thing. Like, he walks out. He takes his time. It takes 6 to 7 minutes for him when his music hits to him done.
Yeah, and I will be completely honest. I was one of those the first week or two, especially the first week. Like when I first heard his entrance, I was not feeling it. Like the music itself, I was like,
Me
"What the
neither.
fuck
It
is
was
this?"
very
I was like,
like,
"This is so like not."
but
Yeah,
he
like
made it. He made
yeah,
it. Like the
yeah,
slow walkout, the
hmm
everything, the lifting up the title.
yeah,
Now you can't
yeah,
listen to that music without thinking of him lifting up the titles, him talking into the camera, so it's a
hmm
part of it. And if Vince is behind it, I take back my words. Oh my God. But I guarantee you he's not behind it. It was everybody. Paul,
yeah. It's a
Roman.
collaborative effort for sure.
Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Bro, I was not behind that music in the beginning.
no, I wasn't either.
It was like weird. Turn. I get that.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah,
was cool,
yeah.
but it was still cheesy, and it was like I don't get it. But bro, after he made it with the undisputed, like,
Mm-hmm.
come on.
Bro, yeah, for sure, for sure. And last question to tie up the main event.
Let's go.
Do you see Theory cashing in or attempting to cash in at any point during the match?
If he does cash in my opinion, I think he gets ragdolled, where like he cashes in prematurely, and he tries to take advantage of maybe Roman Reigns and Brock down, or one of the two down, and he thinks he could slick, and then I think Roman Reigns and Brock team up like, all right, you're not gonna cash in on one of the other two, so we're gonna
Yeah.
rain down on you and like beat you up. But I think this is an opportunity to build Theory up, as they have over the last 6 months, because you can't build somebody up and then all of a sudden they be champion. That sometimes happens, but I think they build him up. He gets crashed down and then he builds himself back up again, because Austin Theory is a superstar. He's
Yeah.
everything we want in a wrestler. And
Facts.
love him, hate him, like him, he is that next guy. When Brock Lesnar no longer wants to wrestle, when Roman is part time because he's acting, or he's taking care of his health, Austin Theory's the next guy. Austin Theory, Drew McIntyre, he's the next guy, and you have to build people up in order to establish what you have going forward. So you can't hate on somebody like Austin Theory and be like, oh, but I want them to build somebody else. Well, you have to, you have to manage that. You have to be like, all right, this guy I hate, but I also know that he's that guy moving forward. And I know Austin Theory, and I hate that I have to call him Theory. I wish that he had a fucking first name. Jesus
Right.
Christ, Theory. Theory's a weird name. Austin Theory, I'm gonna call him that.
Yeah. No.
He's the future WWE champion for sure.
100%. I'd say 3-4-ish years from now.
I would say sooner, Ash.
Yeah.
I'd say sooner.
Probably.
I'd say we're in 2022, about to be in 2023.
Yeah.
I'd say he's
25.
probably no. I'd say he's a champion at some point, if not 2023, whether it's Raw, Universal,
Okay.
if not 2024. So I see it within a year.
Okay. We'll see. We shall see. But your official pick for the main event was Roman Reigns as retaining.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But I think the match itself, to kind of wrap up here. I think the main event is going to be very interesting to see what finish they come up with. Me personally, I don't think part of me thinks with how prevalent Theory has been, they're gonna want to have him come out there at some point during the main event, but I don't see him officially cashing in the briefcase. I see him holding on to it, for at least for now. I think it would be a complete waste and just a complete fumble if they officially have him cash in and he doesn't cash in successfully, because I don't think he should, so I don't think you should even have him officially cash in. He has a fucking year at this point, so why have him officially cash in? I think if anything, you'll see him maybe come out, try to screw someone over to get the upper hand to cash in, and then it backfires on him, and then whoever is set to win the match, probably Roman, does whatever he's going to do, and he's going to retain. So that's my general broad, I guess, prediction for the main event. But are you pretty much on the same page in that regard?
I love it. I think I agree with everything we've said, but I also think that some chaos could happen because have we been in a situation where Vince McMahon led us to this SummerSlam, but like now as Triple H and Stephanie, it's like now you have to think of the second after. So like I understand that everything that Vince created led us to this, but also you need to think about everything after. So, like, right away, like, SummerSlam ends, there's Monday Night Raw, there's contracts, there's feuds, and it's, like, you have to think of it right away. So, there's a lot to go on right now where we can predict the most accurate ways of, like, okay, I think SummerSlam will go X, Y, and Z. But, like, that could change right now. Because they were like, oh shit, yeah, Vince McMahon thought of this way, but like maybe we should go this way because I know for Clash at the Castles, right?
Yeah, Clash of the Castle.
Right? What is it? It's Clash at the Castles, Extreme Rules, Crown Jewel. Crown Jewel is in November, and that's the all-time like Goldberg, like everything. It's like you need to create a lot over the next 2 months.
Yeah. Oh,
it's a big deal.
100%. So, like you mentioned earlier, I'm very intrigued to see what they end up doing with Survivor Series, since the brands have been more blended now, and you have two divisions unified, essentially. You can't have a brand versus brand, when you have dual champions. So it's like, what do you do there? So yeah, I'm very intrigued to see what they do. But any final thoughts on the SummerSlam card or anything else that you want to officially wrap up with before I let you plug away?
No. So what I have is coming back to SummerSlam is potential of Edge, Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, and Goldberg and John Cena. Then on the women's side, you have Bayley, Sasha Banks, Naomi, and Charlotte Flair. There's a lot of people that could come back. And
I like it.
Overall, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan. It's a great time to tune in because either they're milking it in that way of like creating that impulse of like, hey, watch this. Because the Sasha Banks and Naomi thing is crazy.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to go on with that, whether it's a work or a kind of work or like obviously just shoot where it's like real shit, but you don't know. It's, at the end of the day, it's more for money. So I'm excited to see. I think SummerSlam will be a great test for WWE, Triple H, Stephanie, and what we have moving forward. And I'm excited for that.
No, I agree with you 100% there. I think SummerSlam and especially Raw and SmackDown the weeks coming forward after that are going to be really telling to see what the new regime end up doing going forward. Your returns though, I don't know. Part of me thinks that it could be a balls out pay-per-view. Part of me feels like it could be reserved and they hold everything off for the weeks coming up after that. But I think something, especially with the reports that we've gotten, Triple H is going to want to do something. He's going to want to have some type of splash. So I think it's SummerSlam. So I think, I think that's a no-brainer. But my friend, thank you so much for joining me and being my inaugural guest on the Kick-Ass podcast. You have been a blessing. I thank you so much. So please plug away, my friend. Plug away. And you I hope will be back.
Oh, please. Enter the lab, myself, Elvis Escobar, Fort Sama. We do a weekly podcast dropping every Tuesday morning. We talk about everything. We talk about sports. We talk about entertainment. We talk about the news, politics, whatever. We touch upon everything and anything. So hopefully you guys join us and enter the lab. And I hope to be on this podcast a couple more times, and hopefully have Ashley on our podcast to reciprocate what we got going on, because it's I mean, I could talk to her for hours of the day, where I don't realize, what are we at, like almost 3 hours recording, so whatever.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
it doesn't even seem like that. Yeah.
Right?
It's wild. It's wild. No, yes, you absolutely do. You are welcome anytime, anytime. Hopefully, depending on scheduling, everything, maybe we can get you on for the review show. And just if not the review show, something very, very quickly after that. But definitely, I truly appreciate you coming on, my friend. I think as always, everyone, you better go check out Enter the Lab. They do amazing work, and like I said earlier, no bullshit. If you are a knowledgeable and like you feel like you know 100% of sports out there, or you are a complete beginner, you feel like you know what you're talking about, or you feel like you have at least a fair understanding of everything going forward. So, and like you mentioned too, I love the spin and kind of like your input and your opinion on real life and real things that are happening, and certain things that are happening in the news, you know what I mean, like the world is
Real
just
life
crazy
shit.
nowadays. Yeah, yeah. Every week is another tragedy, but you guys have a way of bringing your opinion on it, but not being so down, or being one side or the other. So it's a good listen to for sure. So again, as always, thank you so much, Elvis Escobar, Enter the Lab. I appreciate you, my friend, and if I have anything to do with it, you will be back.
Oh yes, thank you so much. Please,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
you're the voice of reason in Kick Ass podcast. So please tell me.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, you have a great night, sir.
Yes, signing off.
Yes, sir.